What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com, and I am back with the best bets for the week, and it's an interesting week, shall we put it that way, in the world of mixed martial arts. There is a UFC card coming up, a not great UFC card, I'm not going to lie to you. After what was a great UFC card last week, we have, I suppose, a big week anyway for me, and a lot of people on my side of the world coming up next week with Bellator Dublin. There's going to be a fun crowd, it's going to be a fun card, and all of that. There's a few more UFC fights coming up, and then we'll be going into, you know, what's coming next with Kamaru versus Leon, and John Jones coming back, and McGregor towards the end of the year. So a little bit of a lull week here, but you know what? I like a few of the fights on this card in terms of the betting lines, and I'm interested to see. Let me know in the comment section below what your bet for this week is, because I'm very interested. Maybe we'll be able to pick up a few pointers from some of the people in the comment section after my luck kind of ran out a little bit last week. So I gave 3 bets and 2 flyers. Only one of the bets hit, and none of the 2 flyers hit. A very unlucky with one of the flyers, if I'm being honest. One of them was Parker Porter by TKO, and I said, look, someone's getting knocked out. Just happened to be the wrong guy, which is fair enough. That's why it's a flyer. But the other flyer, Volkanovski to win by decision, plus 650, that very, very, very nearly didn't happen. Or sorry, very nearly did happen. Some might say it very nearly didn't happen, maybe me included, but we won't argue that today. So that was very close. For a plus 650 flyer to be that close, I think I'm on the right lines there. I'm not too miffed with that one, even though it didn't hit, so we're all right with that. The one I did hit was the over on Volkanovski and Islam at 2.5 rounds. That was minus 150, so a pretty solid bet there. Honestly, I was kind of happy with my analysis of that fight. I think I kind of got it just about right. I knew it'd be a close fight, and I knew Volkanovski would do better than a lot of people thought, and he definitely did, whether you think he won or lost. And that bet was good, and the other one was almost good. The 2 bets I whiffed on, then Della Maddalena by decision, I said as well, like, that's the last time we'll probably ever go for him via that sort of route in against that sort of opponent. I thought he was a great fighter, a good fighter. Now I'm recalibrating my, could he be a championship level fighter? So that was a bad one on me. And then Tyson Pedro, Modestas Bukauskas, the under 2.5 rounds. Honestly, that was like my surest bet of the week. And yeah, Pedro didn't have a great night. Bukauskas had a good night and stayed away from Pedro's power and outpointed him. So those are how the bets went last week. So we're 50-50 overall. 7 of 14, but 2 of 5 on the flyer. So I'm very, very happy with that. I'm happy overall. I think, you know, the bets overall have been pretty good. So let's move forward. That I'd be hanging on to that 50% for as long as I can, and probably lose it very, very soon. But sure, look, we had a good start to the year anyway, and we'll keep it going over the next while. Right, let's get into the bets for this week, and they're all coming from the UFC card. And I'm going to start off with the fight between William Knight and Marcin Prachnio. Now, just before I started here, I went back again and I watched it. It's funny, Philpe is one of my other bets. He fought actually against Prachnio in their was it both of their last fights? One of their last fights anyway. And it was an interesting fight. And I watched bits and pieces of the fight just to see, remind me maybe of their quality again. And for the Knight Prachnio one, the bet I'm going for the under 2.5 rounds of minus 130 in that fight, because I came out of that fight thinking I really fancy Prachnio to win that against William Knight, but also my first initial look at it was like, you know what, William Knight, he can hit very, very hard, can't he? What about him inside the distance? What about him as an underdog in the I suppose the greatest hits in the world with his big one-shot knockout power? What about him there like minus 120, or even like him to win inside the distance or via knockout or something like that? He's only plus 185 to win via knockout. But the more I watched the Prachnio in that fight, the more I was like, oh God, it's going to be a tough night for William Knight. Now, I think if I was to pick straight up, you'd ask me who I think my winner will be, I would go for Prachnio. I think he will win the fight. And you can get him some places at plus 100. You can get him as the underdog in a couple of places, but most places he is just about the favourite, I think, around minus 110, minus 115. Now, that maybe it's gone in and out. I'm looking there. On February 11th, he was minus 122 in this one book, and now he's minus 103, and it's basically 50-50 there with William Knight. So I'm interested to see if the betting line is going that way, if it's getting a bigger and bigger price for Prachnio all the time. Maybe hang on, wait till fight night to back him altogether. But I think the more people study Prachnio, I think maybe they will fancy him. But look, the reason they're not fancying him is what I just said, that power of William Knight. 11 wins, 9 by knockout, and you look at his losses then, half his losses he has been knocked out into, including his last one against Devin Clark. But look, he's knocked out a lot of, I suppose, the middling light heavyweights that he's fought. Like, he fought Dawung Jung and lost. He fought Alonzo Millifield and went to decision, ended up winning. He fought Grisham and Clark and lost. But then you see like the middle of the road kind of Fabio Charant, Cody Brundage, Rocky Edwards, Jamal Jones. He's beating these guys. He's knocking these guys out. I don't know which Prachnio falls into. Does he fall into the good to okay light heavyweight, or the kind of the middle into bad light heavyweight? I would maybe I'm going out on a limb here, but I think he's a little bit better than the bad light heavyweights. I think he's good. I think he's a good fighter. Okay, he's lost to a good few recently. He lost to Sam Alvey back in 2018, but he has a win over Khalil Roundtree and Ike Villanueva and a few others as well. I like his style. I think he has power, and this is one of those fights, right, where I think that because of the way that Prachnio fights, I think William Knight will draw himself basically on tonight. I really do. I think he will go for Knight. He will go for Prachnio and then either get him and knock him out, or leave himself wide open and get knocked out, because Prachnio has the ability to like move, touch him, hurt him, and if he does that throughout and like is kind of touching him, if he's not even like hurting him badly or anything like that, but if he's just kind of touching him, if he's just kind of making him pay, Knight will keep going and get tireder and tireder and tireder, and I think the longer this fight goes, the tougher it is going to be for William Knight. So all in all, I do think the fight will finish inside the distance. I do think it'll finish inside 2.5 rounds, so that's why I'm going for the under 2.5 rounds. Someone's getting knocked out here. I think it'll be Knight getting knocked out maybe in the second round, maybe late in the first round. I'd be very surprised if it went late in the third round. Honestly, I'd be very, very surprised, and I think that minus 130 bet is a good price there. So that's what I'm going for there. My next bet is an interesting one, and I'm going for Mayra Bueno Silva to win by submission, and she's plus 200. Now, before I get into the whys and whereabouts, let me just look at her record here on Sherdog.com, because I as you all know, I'm not the biggest fan of stats, if any of you listen to this, but the facts don't lie as well sometimes. 9 wins, 6 by submission, 1 by KO, 2 by decision. So most of her fights that she wins are by submission. You're giving me her to win by submission plus 200. Now, her opponent, Lina Lansberg, has never lost by submission in her 17 fights, and that's a big part of it. Now, I've actually gone back and forth with 3 bets on this. I was going to give it as a flyer. Now, here's the flyer I was going to give, right? And if this hits, someone, screen record this and put it up. Mayra Bueno Silva to win in the third round. I really think she's going to win this fight late, and I think she's going to submit her late. I might be wrong. I just feel like you go in there with Silva, and she's so dangerous with her submissions. The different sorts of submissions she has as well. She's won fights by ninja choke, load of arm bars and stuff like that, but she threatens with triangles. She threatens with everything. And I think when you're Lina Lansberg, right, and you fight the way she does, I remember her last fight, I was analysing it. I don't know, I was here in the betting show or on one of the preview shows. But the analysis of Lina Lansberg always is she finds her way into the clinch. And if you're someone who finds your way into the clinch and you're fighting Bueno Silva the way she fights, where she looks for the submission, she will pull guard if she needs to, or pull you into position where she can get the fight to the ground. If you give her that clinch, as Lina Lansberg always seems to do in her fights, that's a really, really bad night for you. But what's the alternative? The alternative is Lina kind of fighting on the outside, trying to box her up. No, she can do that, or maybe, she's 40 years of age now, maybe a few years ago she could have maybe had even a better chance of doing that, and it's possible, and she's that great, the elbow queen, she's great elbows and all of that, but I think that could be a recipe for disaster if you've given up on your main kind of go forward attacking attribute in the clinch. And if you give up on that, you come forward with something else, you're leaving yourself open for Bueno Silva to dip down, maybe get a takedown, pull guard, get a trip or something like that, and get the fight to the ground and submit you. And that, to me, like, you look at the fight here and you think her main reason why she lose the fight is to take away Bueno Silva's ability to get her in the clinch and submit her, right? And if she gives up on that, she'll also be easier to get to the ground to submit in the open, which, like, there's two sorts of different logics working together there now, but this is I'm trying to be big brain here now. We need, like, all the numbers and sequences gone around over my head here, but I don't know if I explained that well or not, but my thinking is, right, she'll either go forward, get into the clinch and get submitted, or she won't get into that clinch, will be easier to take down in the open and get submitted anyway. Now, get submitted, when I say get submitted, I mean taken to the ground, and Bueno Silva will attempt to submit her. You can't easily submit someone who's had 17 fights and never been submitted. No, I have absolutely no disrespect for Lina Lansberg at all. I think she's a very, very, very good fighter, but Bueno Silva's ability on the ground is also very, very, very good, and everyone has their time, I suppose, when they come up against someone that good. So that's the main reason behind that. I love the price as well. The price at plus 200 for the Bueno Silva sub. I think it's a brilliant price. I don't think you get a better price than that and her to win it by submission. So let's, especially in a fight where, let me just check the overall odds. She's minus 500 to win straight up. Minus 500. So yeah, the plus 200 to win by submission, I think that's a very, very, very good bet, and definitely one that I would be looking at taking there. So yeah, that is the second bet of the night. Just on that fight again before we maybe move on. I really like, I do think that fight, as I said, I do think that fight is going to go long. The price for Bueno Silva to win in the third round is the one I was looking at. I think I said, so to win by submission in the third round, plus 1,000. If you're looking for a flyer, if you're looking for another, I'm not adding another flyer this week, I added an extra one last week. I really, really like that. Plus 1,000 to win by submission in the third round. That's the sort of flyer now. That's the sort of flyer that we need to be going for, to push it to the limit here. I really like that. But I think fight ends in the third round, just the fight ends in the third round, plus 800. I do think this is a fight that's going to go a little bit longer. I think it's going to take time for her to actually submit her, to get into that position, to get a very dominant position to submit her. So, interesting. But the bet I'm going for is plus 200 to win just by submission. Right, next bet I am going for is from the Alexander Hernandez versus Jim Miller fight. And I'm going for the over 1.5 rounds at minus 135 in that one. The main reason I do that is, it's for one very simple reason, honestly. It's that Hernandez has taken this on short notice. And I think we've seen lads in the past, right? They take fights on short notice, and you look at the fight and you think, right, he's taking on short notice. He maybe has a round and a half or 2 rounds of a gas tank in him. He's going to go for it, and if he wins, he wins. If he loses, he loses. I think for Alexander Hernandez, because that's the way he kind of enters fights anyway, and I think probably trusts his cardio, that he might, and this is a weird thing to say now, but he might do the opposite here. He might think, right, I haven't put all the preparation in. I need to kind of mind myself a little bit more. Jim Miller is a dangerous guy, obviously, with submissions and everything like that. If I can push this fight a little bit longer, maybe I can, nab a decision against Jim Miller. Maybe I can use my power later against the guy who's a little bit older. And if I conserve my energy, maybe I'll be able to, to win the fight. Now, that would go, and this is actually idiotic logic the more I think of it, but that would go against everything Alexander Hernandez kind of is known for. But if you look at the evidence as well, right? And it's the over 1.5 rounds. So you look at Alexander Hernandez. Last fight, it went over, and he lost. The one before that it was close to it. He won in the first round before that, went 3 rounds before that. 1 round before that, okay, and then 3-4 fights in a row before that all went over the round and a half. So there is previous there for him. Most of his recent fights have gone over, and against good guys as well, like Cowboy and Billy Contillo and others as well. And for Jim Miller, most of his have been touching on it as well or gone over. His last 3 have all been close. Have all ended around the midpoint of the second round, so maybe that's a bad omen. But the Selecki fight, the Vince Michelle fight, the ones he lost, went over it. Scott Holtzman fight went over it. Like, Miller has been getting a good few first round finishes, absolutely. But I think for Hernandez, at the place he's in his career as well now, right? 13-6, last 2 in a row. You can't come in here on short notice and give up an easy win, do you know? And he'll surely have that, not in the back of his mind, but in the forefront of his mind. He'll surely have to have that in the forefront of his mind. And if he does, I think this could push a little bit longer now. I think also he's a good guy at kind of landing shots, but didn't get landed on himself. Whereas Miller, if he does get landed on, I think he'll take his time. He's a wily old veteran, and maybe he'll hang in there a lot better than most people will, and maybe that will push a little bit longer. But he can hit very, very hard as well. Can Hernandez, and Miller can finish guys with submissions or strikes or anything. But it's my feeling. It's my little feeling. This one, I'm not massively confident. This one, look, it's not a great card. I'm looking for bets here, but yeah, that's what I'm going for here. The over 1.5 rounds. One I do like, the next bet, the 4th bet. I really like this one. It's minus 115, right? Close enough to even money. And it's the OSP versus Lin's fight to not go to a decision. So it finishes inside the distance. The reason I've gone for this, look, as I said, I went back and watched Lin's recently. And you see OSP, and he's a guy who we know for a long time has had all the physical attributes. And when he can put it together, he is absolutely brilliant. He's 20 wins inside the distance, 7 losses inside the distance as well in, just over 40 fights. Now, a lot of his fights have been finishing recently as well. Did go to a decision with Shogun and Ben Rotwell, but he got finished by Jamal Hill and Bozer, knocked out Minifield, submitted Olasheshuk, got submitted by Krylov, and armbarred by Tyson Pedro, submitted Ilir Latifi. You're going back to 2018 then. A lot of his fights in and finishing inside there. And for Philip Lins, you look at him and you think, right, as well, he's a very, very big finishing rate, and his losses have a big finishing rate as well. 80% of his losses, 4 out of 5, have been by TKO KO. 12 out of 15 of his wins have been either by submission or knockout. And when someone is that good of a wrestler as well, and he's not an all-out wrestler by any means, I don't think, but he is a good wrestler. We saw that in the fight I just mentioned against Prachnio, who, as I said, loves to strike. OSP is a guy who likes to strike as well. I wonder, will we see a little bit more wrestling out of Linz in that one, in this one? Now, when we saw it the last time, okay, it did go to the decision, but I think he is a guy who will open up if given the opportunity on the ground. in terms of landing big shots, in terms of going for submissions, trying to get someone's back. I know he's a good guillotine. He's won a couple of fights by rear naked choke as well a few years ago over in Bellator. And it's one of those fights that I think it'll go two ways, right? Like the Prachnio fight, I think it'll start off by Lynn's being confident that he can strike with OSP. And do you know what? I actually think he'll have more success in the OSP fight than he did in that one. Not to say he hadn't great success, but he changed very, very quickly when he saw maybe how good Prachnio was. I think OSP is not as good as he once was. Still has a chance to knock him out. He's such power, he can knock anyone out, and he keeps his power through the fights as well. He's a guy who can land at any time because he doesn't throw the most strikes in the world. He conserves his energy a little bit, and that's a good thing for someone, you know, you're looking to for a fight to finish inside the distance. You want that to happen, whether it's either guy, you know, if someone finishing the third or the first or the second round, it doesn't matter. But I think so. The thought there is, right, I think Linz will strike with OSP for as long as he feels comfortable, but then I think he will switch it up and take him down. I think he will be able to take him down if he wants to at a point in that fight, and then I do think he does open up on the ground and might be able to get the finish there. He's between a minus 200 and a minus 245 favourite to win over OSP, who's around plus 175 on all the books here. So Linz is the favourite. And he is the favourite to get it done inside the distance. The fight to go to decision, plus 100, minus 130. The fight doesn't go to decision. As I say, minus 115, the fight doesn't go to decision. On the Linz price, then I'm looking at, he wins inside the distance, plus 160. Honestly, I like that bet, but throw in the OSP probability and change it to minus 115. I think that's very, very good. Like if you like Preux to win inside the distance, if you like Linz to win by decision, it's plus 190. I don't think I would go for that. But Preux to get the finish, as I said, plus 350, and that's not a monstrously bad price either. But I really like that one. Honestly, I do think the fight will finish inside the distance, minus 115. I think that's a pretty good bet there. Do you know what? That ACA might be good as well. The minus 130, the plus 200, the minus 135, and the minus 115. You know, I'll probably maybe I could check out what it'll bring you out to, but I think it could bring you out to what about a plus 300-400 or something like that. Not a bad price at all, I think, for those four. So let's get to the flyer here, final bet, and I'm going to the main event for this flyer because honestly, I do not know who's going to win this main event. I think it's a fantastic main event. I really have a massive affection for Jessica Andrade and the way she fights, and I think Erin Blanchfield is one of the best up-and-comers in the world. I think she's brilliant. And do you know why I'm going for this? Well, and I'll tell you what the bet is in a second. Jack Della Maddalena is the reason I'm going for this. So last week, I looked at Jack Della Maddalena and I thought this guy is one of the best prospects in the world. But do you know what? I'm going to hold back at him a little bit. I'm going to go for him to win by decision. You know, I'm not going to go for him to win inside the distance or anything like that, right? And for Erin Blanchfield, I'm not going to make the same mistake. She is phenomenal. I believe she's phenomenal. She's a very, very good fighter. Now, she's fighting a better fighter than Randy Brown was in, obviously, Jessica Andrade, so don't get me wrong there. I'm not comparing them in that way. But Erin Blanchfield to win inside the distance, plus 350. Plus 350. That is my flyer of the week. And let me just check and verify that price as well, because I looked at it yesterday because I was looking through these bets and I was like, oh, that's a tasty little one there. And I think it's still around that. It's a very, very good bet. I like that bet. I like that bet a lot. And if she can pull it off, what a massive win for her. What a massive win for her. Now, as I said, the price plus 350. It's actually here one blessed, the main book here, plus 390. So plus 390, you can get up as far as that. It'll be interesting to see the further we go, I suppose, this week where it will go to. But very, very interesting price there. And like the reason I'm going for this, I believe, as I said, I believe in Blanchfield. I'm not going to give a big spiel here and give a big analysis of this whole fight. I just think she's very good. I think she can strike. I think she has the wrestling. If she can pick her up and put her down, you know, and do to her what she's done to a few other people, and it won't be as easy, but that's a massive mindset. When you're someone like Andrade coming in on short notice, if someone kind of new up and coming does that to you, it's a big mindset change for you as well. And I'm very, very, very interested to see that. As I said, I believe in Erin Blanchfield. I think she's a very, very good fighter, and a plus 350 to win inside the distance. If she does it, that's not a price you'll ever get again. So we'll go for that. Erin Blanchfield wins inside the distance plus 350. All right, those are 5 bets for the week. I'll go over them again. Knight and Prachnio under 2.5 rounds minus 130. Silva sub plus 200. Miller Hernandez over round and a half minus 135. OSP Lynn's fight doesn't go to a decision minus 115. And the flyer of the week, Blanchfield wins inside the distance plus 350. All right, everyone, I will leave it there. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.